Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
What's up, guys, gals, and non-binary pals? Welcome to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, and what a surprising episode that we are gonna have for you today. Because I'm gonna be honest, I did not expect that this week is going to be completely filled up with so many trailers. Because that's the big thing. It's just that out of nowhere, we suddenly got this trailer and then that trailer, and then it just piled up all together. So we are going to be looking into some of the big ones that have been released this week. And then, of course, we are going to follow that up with a little bit of animation news that did occur. Because there are some things that we are going to go and really discuss a lot about, because this is definitely going to be a fun-filled episode, and definitely something that will be worth a watch, and hopefully we will all have a good time with. So with all that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to go and ask you guys, are we all ready to go and start this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Guys, let me hear it. Are you all ready? Let's see now. Yes, okay. Do we have more people? Yes. All right, perfect. We are now all set and ready to go and start this off and really get things started. And like I stated, we are gonna go and begin by looking into the trailers, because we really have a whole bunch of them, and for some reason this was the week so that some companies decided to go and unleash many of their big ones, and some of them, I gotta say, are pretty unexpected. But this one, however, finally, this was something that I have been waiting for quite a while. Not necessarily because this was like one of my most anticipated movies of 2020, but mainly because I want to see more of it. I really want to see more of what this movie could offer, because I'll be honest, with the last trailer that it released, even though that was just a teaser trailer, it didn't really show me much, and it didn't really sell me much onto the movie itself. But hopefully with this one, it will manage to do much more of that with the job. So with that said, let's go ahead and start with our first trailer by checking out Pixar's next animated feature, Onward.
And the van is huge! And you're... Oh no.
So, yeah, that is Onward, the upcoming Pixar movie that's going to be coming out in March 2020. And so far, for the looks of things, I will say, when it comes to this trailer in particular, it's, better? Let me explain. It's hard to really go and fully describe my feelings about what I've just witnessed with this one. Because the thing is, the reason why I wasn't really getting into the first teaser trailer, like the first, technically our first ever look at Onward, my problem with it is that its main selling point is the world that Onward is set in. It's the fact that it's this classic medieval style fairy tale world with classic mythological creatures like unicorns, fairies, elves, ogres, cyclops, and all that kind of stuff. You know, like, they really go into that element, but decided to give that little twist of being set in the modern times, which, as we all know, has been done many times before. So already that whole concept is just not that original, and if that's the main selling point, then honestly, I was a bit put off by it, because it needed a bit more. It needed to go and answer a bit more questions, because it can't just be about that. There has to be a story. And in a way, yes, there is a bit of a story, and it looks like it is going to be something that's a bit more heartfelt, where the main idea is that on Tom Holland's birthday, on the the character of Tom Holland in this movie, he's going to have his 16th birthday, or he is having his 16th birthday. And with this magical staff that used to belong to his dad, he can actually go and have his dad be alive for only 24 hours. The only problem is that so far it's just his lower half. And now it looks like, according to this trailer, that the rest of the movie is going to be trying to bring his full self back before time runs out. That seems to be a bit of the main idea. It is a little bit predictable. I could see where some of the outcomes can go, but then again, I do feel like it's the kind of story that, in the right hands, it's going to be a very emotional journey. This will be a very heartfelt journey about trying to figure out one's relative, try to go and meet someone that they've always wanted to meet but never got the opportunity to, which in this case, it's these kids who are going to finally meet their dad, who somehow is no longer in the picture. But one thing I will say that does seem pretty obvious is the fact that, yeah, they're trying to cover up the fact that, no, his dad was originally an accountant, but, he has a staff. That means he's a wizard. Like this little clip. Hold on a sec. Let me just back this up.
Wizard staff. Dad was a wizard.
What? Your dad was an accountant.
Okay, just take a moment to have a good look at the picture of their dad. Because honestly, I think there's no secret that the wizard that we saw at the beginning, this guy, yeah, that's also their dad. I could be wrong on this, but that does seem to be a bit of the indicator that this is pretty much the character's dad, which apparently is Ian and Barley. Okay, that's their names. Okay, so they do have names. I don't have to call them Tom Holland and Chris Pratt. It's Ian and Barley. So that I can imagine. That's a little clip of their dad, and apparently now they got their hands on their staff. I know the staff is a little bit different than what we saw in the beginning, but we do see a little bit of the clues. It is noticeable with what they can go. But then, on the other hand, though, even though there is that little element that it does tell us a bit of a story, which is welcoming, that I do appreciate that, okay, now we know the direction it can go, and I can see the directions of where it can work, I do have a bit of a problem, and it's the same thing as before, where I still feel like it's trying to really push hard on the aspect of the modern fairy tale, where we are taking these classic mythological creatures and put them in a modern setting. I feel like that's still the big main selling point, especially when you continue on to some of the elements at the right in the middle of the trailer, where we enter into this 7-Eleven and then suddenly it's raided by these motorcycle pixie characters, where now they're acting like major punks. Then we do have other things like this chimera creature that's running this Denny's, or it's running this family friendly restaurant that also features plenty of other characters. So I don't know, they're still really trying to sell that hard, and they think that, okay, let's really play with that. I mean, again, this is something that's already been done plenty of times before, and the most recent example that I could think of is Netflix's Bright, the one with Will Smith, that's in this modern world, but it also features all these different classic fairy tale creatures like elves, fairies, and dragons, and ogres, and stuff like that, and yeah, that film turned out to be a bit of a mess, and when you're not doing something right when you have a movie that's pretty much reminding you a lot about something like Bright. I just hope that Pixar doesn't make something that would also be in the quality of Bright. But then again, I will give it credit that it does have good animation. It does have plenty of ideas that it can do, and already I could see some really good elements, like the effects, of course. Like, they really are great. Like, when one of the kids are trying to bring back the dad, and you see a lot of great effects coming from the staff and all that stuff. You know, that does actually look pretty cool, and I can imagine this is definitely going to be something that will have a lot of great visual potential. But then again, this is Pixar, and we often expect, like, top quality animation coming from that studio. So that would not surprise me if this is going to be something where the visuals are going to be absolutely spectacular. And even though this is a pretty old concept that's already been redone plenty of times before, I'm certain that Pixar can find a way to go and try to make that visually appealing, to mix the modern with classic mythology in order to blend the two to create a brand new world. And hopefully, like, best case scenario would be that Pixar can actually go and make that concept feel new. They can go and make that feel original on top of having a very heartfelt story. Like, that could be the best case scenario, that they are capable of turning this into a great animated feature, somewhere that could also be in the same leagues as many of their other animated films. Like, that would be the most optimistic. But then again, there is also that side of me that does feel like this is just going to be reused. This is just going to feel old, and it's just going to feel like any other animated film that tries to modernize classic fairy tales. It's just, you know, it's going to be a little bit difficult to try to really step up. It's just right now, I feel like I'm in a position where I could see this go both ways, where Pixar can find a way to really make this great, and especially to really make this heartfelt, because that's probably the best thing that I can get out of this trailer, more so than the animation, is that this could possibly have a very heartfelt story with the kids and their relationship with the father that they never fully knew. But then worst case scenario, I'm not expecting this to be terrible. I don't think this could even be like among the worst animated films of 2020, but I feel like this could just feel dull. It could just feel like an original animated kids flick that's just using a pretty tiresome concept. So for me, I do feel like this could go both ways. And I mean, technically, this isn't necessarily directed by one of the top Pixar people. This isn't really like a Pete Docter movie or a Brad Bird movie or an Andrew Stanton movie. Apparently, this is going to be from the director of Monsters University, which for me, I feel like it's one of the weaker Pixar films. Like, it's just, for the most part, it's just meh. I love the third act. Like, the third act, that's when it fully feels like a legitimate, awesome Pixar movie. But then you still had to go through an hour's worth of just animated mediocrity, honestly. So that's the thing. I'm not saying that this guy is a bad director, but I want to give him some hope. And I mean, this is his first shot at making a fully original animated feature. Like, this is its own IP. So I want to give him a chance, and hopefully, like, this is going to be a full-on redemption for him where, like, he can really be up there in the leagues of the legendary Pixar directors. But I guess for now, we'll just have to wait and see. So overall, what I feel with this trailer is that it's better, but I don't know. It's just, like, it's better than how it introduced itself last time, but there's just a part of me that feels like it could go both ways. It could go spectacularly, or it can go into the path of mediocrity. That's how I feel with what this trailer is delivering us. So with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and now I want to ask you guys, what do you all think about this trailer of Onward? Did you guys actually like the trailer? Do you think this is going to be awesome? Do you guys think that this is actually going to be crap, that this is going to be one of Pixar's worst movies? Let me know what you all think. Alright, now let's see. Oh boy, we got a whole bunch of comments over here. Now let's see. Pixar hasn't been that great at trailers due to them trying to market heavily to children and families, and it's really hard to make those kinds of trailers, though the trailers of Toy Story 4 to be and the movie itself ended up being great, and knowing that this is inspired by the director's real experience with having a father who died before he was born. I'm really optimistic about this. Also, this movie isn't written by a monster like Max Landis, who should go to jail. Now this comment over here, what this person brought up, holy crap. That is an amazing point right there. Many of them, in fact. Number one, yes, definitely Max Landis should go to jail. But most especially is the fact that a weak point in Pixar is that their marketing is not all that great. In fact, I would even put that among, like, all of Disney's trailers. Like, even with their animated films from Disney Animation. Like, a lot of their trailers, they don't usually come out good. Now, granted, sometimes they can have their great marks. Like, so far, the trailers for Frozen 2, they are absolutely amazing. But they do bring up this comment does bring up a very good point of the fact that sometimes Disney trailers don't really advertise the true potential of how the movies could ultimately be. And probably the perfect example, for me at least, is Zootopia. Because Zootopia is another trailer where it would advertise itself a little bit more like a typical animated kids flick, but then as it turns out, it actually became an absolutely phenomenal animated feature, much more than what it presented itself. And it could be the same case over here, that it's not showing us everything. There are still some major surprises that are hidden within Onward. And it's the same case with Toy Story 4. Like, the trailers in there were good, but they didn't fully reveal some of the major aspects that would happen in Toy Story 4, like a lot of the unexpected twists and turns. So in this case here, in the case of Onward, it is highly possible that the trailers are just really deceiving, and it's much more deep than what it's letting on to us, mainly because this trailer is just trying to market for kids. And it is definitely true that when it comes to the director, this is actually based on his own personal experience where, this is based on his own journey to try to discover who his father is. So that's one thing that I can definitely tell from this is that, as I stated before, this is a trailer where I could tell that this movie could have a lot of heart. And so far, the heart really shows. And I could definitely, like, from the trailer there, like, there definitely is a lot of that heart from, like, that personal attachment that the director wanted to put in there. So maybe there's going to be a whole lot more. So yeah, overall, what I want to say with this comment is that it does bring up a lot of good points, and it could be deceiving, and maybe it's a lot deeper than it's letting on because this trailer is just trying to market towards kids. Okay, let's go and move on to our next comment. Let's see what we got here. The trailer looks like fun. The wand that's being used to bring Dad back resembles Gandalf's staff, and I hope they'll make a Lord of the Rings reference. I don't know, it does feel a little too predictable to go and do that. This movie will probably end with the main characters learning how to handle the wand and bring his dad back. The trailer will prove that Soul will be the best of the two Pixar movies. This movie looks like a combination of Shrek and Zootopia. Also, you predicted the future with Ellen with your last episode, as Ellen is currently facing backlash now. Oh my god, I've already seen a lot of people in the chat wall trying to tell me that, yes, for those of you who need a little bit of context of that, in the last episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, I did talk about a news story where Ellen is going to have her own animated series as a little kid called Little Ellen, and I worried that it would be an omen that dark things could happen to Ellen because it already happened before with Bill Cosby with Little Bill and Roseanne Barr with Little Rosie. But now it seems like I'm actually right about that, and it came out a lot sooner than I expected, considering how Ellen is in massive controversy right now because of her friendship with George W. Bush. So yeah, I'm just surprised. Honestly, I'm just surprised that it just happened literally days after I made that prediction. So just to give you a little bit of context on that. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing. I think the trailer looks pretty good. The animation is really gorgeous. I like Tom Holland and Chris Pratt's performance, and I'm actually okay with the concept of medieval fairy tale movie set in the modern times. That's my opinion, don't judge. The effects are pretty good too, especially when they use the wand. And like you said, it will be a heartfelt movie. I wonder how good Chris and Tom will do with the acting. They can make a pretty good acting duo. And I mean, it's already been proven that they have some good chemistry, considering that they have already collaborated together on the Marvel movies, considering we got Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, and then we got Tom Holland as Peter Parker as Spider-Man. So them working together, I can definitely feel like it's easy to imagine them collaborating well, especially on something like this. And so far, I will say, right now, the dynamic between Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, so far, it feels a lot better than the dynamic between Tom Holland and Will Smith in Spies in Disguise. Like, this one right now, like, I'm not getting a whole lot out of it, but I do see the potential that they could be a great duo, where in Spies in Disguise, it just feels absolutely annoying, and it's not necessarily the actor's fault, it's just because of the writing, and honestly, that does give me a little bit more optimism, actually, because so far, the writing on Onward, it doesn't feel as bad as Spies in Disguise, so at least I could give credit to that. Okay, let's see, what else do we got here? Do we got another comment going on? Okay, honestly, this trailer is absolutely mint. Of course, Tom Holland and Chris Pratt are absolutely fantastic actors, but aside from that, the concepts are quite fresh and such a dated idea. The animation is absolutely brilliant, and the story may hit close to home for me. Also, can I add, considering the track record of the past 2 Pixar films, I wonder what the film controversy will be. I don't know. Honestly, it's hard to say right now, but I guess we'll have to wait later on, like probably more towards 2020, if there would be any controversy that's going to be happening. But I'm honestly quite surprised that a lot of people in the chat wall are actually really getting into the trailer. Like, a lot of you guys are actually pretty optimistic, which is pretty good, you know? Like, you know, this could lead to signs that this might actually be a pretty solid movie. All right, I'm going to go and read one more comment before we go to the next trailer. I'm excited to see Pixar back with original films, though I am not a fan of Monsters University, and the trailer didn't 100% blow me away. Though Chris Pratt is my favorite actor working today because of his charisma. Although I think I'm more excited for Soul and that other animated Disney film, though Pixar usually has weak marketing. Okay, that's fair, man. That's definitely fair. Okay, so now that we got our first trailer out of the way, it is now time that we are going to go and jump onto the next trailer. And unfortunately, when it comes to this one, I do have a little bit of bad news. This could honestly be something that not many people are going to be happy to hear about. Because the thing is, we are at the beginning of October. We're still at the beginning, or at least the first half of it. However, even though we're still weeks away from Halloween, the Christmas commercials have already started. Case in point, Netflix has already started to put out their trailer for their Christmas movie. So with that said, let's go and jump onto the next trailer as we're going to be checking out Klaus.
I would never in a million years have done what I just did if I didn't think these were attached.
So yes, that is Klaus, the next big Netflix Christmas movie. Considering that Netflix, especially last year, they had a big score when it comes to Christmas movies, especially with the Christmas Chronicles. So hopefully they could do the same with their new animated feature, Klaus. And say what you will about the trailer of Onward, but at least for me, I feel much more optimistic about Klaus than I would with Onward, because this definitely does hit all the right notes to go and be a pretty solid Christmas movie. Because, number one, if I could go with probably one of my favorite things about this trailer in particular, or what it's trying to present us, is that this is one of those movies that's reinventing the Santa Claus lore. Like, where did Santa come from, and the origins of the tradition that he would do of trying to spread toys from all over the world during one night and stuff like that. You know, these movies and that kind of idea of trying to create their own version, that's always a lot of fun, and that's always really interesting to check out. In fact, that's one of the things that I really love from another animated Christmas movie, Arthur Christmas. The way that they reinvented the Santa Claus lore in order to fit more with the modern age, that was actually pretty cool and really fascinating to see how they would go and do it. Especially with how they present Santa not necessarily as like this immortal being, but someone that it's more like the thing is with Santa Claus, it's like a tradition that's passed down from generation to generation. But in the case of Klaus, this one does feel like it leans a little bit more in the veins of Santa Claus is coming to town, where now we're really seeing how Santa Claus really came to be, where in this case, it's a collaboration between this really big and strong toy maker that's pretty much taking the entire image of Santa and this postman, where he's a little bit like the brains of the whole situation, where he's the one that got the idea of delivering toys to kids all over the world and stuff like that. So that's kind of the big idea with Klaus, or at least the whole concept of it, where we see this collaboration and how we see Santa ultimately come to be. But then we have this one big obstacle being this angry town that everybody is just angry at each other, where beforehand, like in something like Santa Claus is Coming to Town, it's just this one villain in particular, which is the Burgermeister, like the mayor of this little town that just hates everything. He hates toys, he hates joy, he hates fun, and all that kind of silly little stuff that made that special cheesy as F. But here it's like they expanded it. Now it's like the entire town. So you do have a little bit of that Rankin Bass cheesiness, but in this case over here, I do see where it can really be charming. It's not like hammering it in your head, but in a way that could deliver it in a style that could be fun, that could be really enjoyable. But the one aspect that a lot of people are a lot more excited about to see from this, and the reason why many people are very familiar with this project in particular, especially for animation fans, is the hand-drawn animation aspect. This is the first time that we are getting a major hand-drawn animated film be released just anywhere in general, or at least a hand-drawn animated film in this stature that's kind of coming in towards the mainstream. Of course, we do have plenty of those from independent filmmakers, but this is the closest that we have gotten so far on the mainstream. Even though this is not necessarily released in theaters, I mean, like, technically it is, but only for a limited time. But the main place to go and find this would be on Netflix, which I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if eventually Netflix and streaming services in general will be the new home for hand-drawn animated features. Like, if you want to make a hand-drawn film, then you got to go and check it out on Netflix. And so far, from what we see with many different places, like in the trailer, the hand-drawn animation is just absolutely beautiful. Like, the movements are very fluid, they're very strong, it looks really nice, and highly stylized as well, where it nearly looks three-dimensional. Like, this is almost 2.5D animation, especially with the way that they play with the lighting. I have never seen an animated feature really emphasize the lighting as much as this. In fact, probably the best place to find where it would be, it's like, I think it's somewhere like right at the beginning. Yes, like right over here. Like, you really see the strong use of lighting on these 2D characters to make them look legitimately 3D without actually using 3D as their medium. This isn't like fake computer like, this isn't fake cel-shaded computer animation. You know, they didn't use the same kind of tactics that they would in something like Disney's Paperman. This is legit 2D animation, but they just really emphasized the use of the lighting to give the characters depth, to give them a very unique style that's almost storybook-like. And, you know, honestly, that's actually very perfect. And I think that's the right way to describe it. It's very storybook-like, because a lot of Christmas stories, they come from storybooks, and you want to try to capture the feeling of a storybook. So here this movie is, where it has this very like stylized look to it, playing a lot with the lighting and the designs, and pretty much with the cartoony style that this movie is portraying. It does feel like you're being read a storybook during Christmas time, which I'm sure that's a tradition for many people. And honestly, if that's the goal that they're trying to do, oh my god, then this is more than perfect for what they want to do for a movie like this. However, there is one little piece of criticism that I would like to put in onto the animation, and this is something that I am a little bit surprised about, and this is probably the most prominent right at the beginning when the postman meets Klaus. And honestly, it's just, I'm surprised to find that not everything in the animation is actually fluid. It's actually really smooth, as much as like many of the times that we've seen before. Like right at the beginning when the postman introduces himself, like right here, like my problem with it is just that now it's starting to be really noticeable, where it's almost like the animators are kind of cheating a bit and using flash animation, where it doesn't feel as fluid as some of the other parts of the animation. Like even right over here, it's just like they barely changed much except for the mouth position. It's just, you could tell that there's some cheating elements. Maybe this scene in particular is not necessarily complete, and there's still a little bit more polishing up that they have to do. That's still highly possible, but it's just, I don't know. Like, if you want to deliver me some strong hand-drawn animation, then try to deliver it to me in full. Don't try to cheat your way around some things. Like, maybe it's for budgetary reasons, but I don't know, like that, like honestly, right at the beginning it did throw me off a bit, but the rest, however, it does display some great smooth animation, especially like one great example is right at the beginning, like where you see the postman running to try to grab the sack, and like even this little piece, like when he's sitting next to Santa, or like sitting next to Klaus, where he's fully becoming Santa now with his red suit. There's also another great one. Where was it? Yes, okay, right over here. Like, these are little moments that are actually pretty subtle, but I just love that little piece of animation, and in a way, you'll see what I mean. It's this little piece here.
Not a word. You just sit there, be all magical and awesome.
Like, that piece of animation, like, with with the little disgruntled postman, honestly, that kind of reminds me a little bit of something like The Emperor's New Groove, where it's going for that comical, slightly cartoony animation style that is very expressive, still has some subtleties to it, but still delivers a great effect. So overall, I really am optimistic with Klaus. It does look like it's going to be a very charming movie, and one of those very rare new Christmas movies that's actually going to be really, really good. Probably achieve maybe more so than what Arthur Christmas has already done. So overall, with this trailer, I honestly feel very optimistic for this one. It actually does look pretty solid, and I'm not going to immediately watch it when the movie is going to hit Netflix, because it states that it's going to be coming out on November 15th, I believe. That's what it says. Hold on. Okay, yeah, it says so right here. On November 15th. Like, that's a little too early for the Christmas festivities for me. But maybe sometime in December, I'll definitely go and give this a watch. Don't ask me if I'm gonna, like, I'm sure, like, at this point, people are gonna flood me with comments. Are you gonna review this? Are you gonna review this? Like, that's one of the drawbacks of being a reviewer online. Like, honestly, I cannot watch literally anything without one person just simply asking me, are you gonna go and make a video and review that? I don't know, honestly. I'm still gonna stick to theatrically released films. So don't ask me that question, please. Let me just enjoy my let me just watch movies and just enjoy it without the need of reviewing it, please. But yeah. Like, honestly, I am pretty optimistic to go and see this one out, and if you guys are interested, again, it's going to be coming out on November 15th. Okay, with that said, though, now it is time that we are going to go and jump onto the chat wall, and I want to know, what do you all think about this trailer of Klaus? Are you guys interested in seeing this? Is this something you want to see? Maybe this is something you're not interested in. Are you guys excited? Are you not? Let me know what you all think. Okay. So, with that said, let's see what comments do we have here. Now, we got one Scrooge here. I'm not into Christmas. Like, literally just that one comment. Nah, it's Christmas. I'm not into Christmas. Bah, humbug. Alright, okay. All Scrooge jokes aside, do you. That's fine, dude. Okay. Let's see here. To see this amount of effort and care for the animation in this movie just warms my heart and makes me hope that we could see more 2D animated movies like this being made. Besides that, I am really excited to see this movie. And yeah, like, honestly, that's something that I could totally agree on. Like, I know that I did my little rant, my little spiel on that little piece of Flash animation at the beginning, but for the most part, the animation here is freaking gorgeous. It is absolutely beautiful and well done. So, honestly, just watch, even if it's not for the sake of Christmas, just watching this for the sake of, like, seeing the animation, I'm sure this is just gonna be a beautiful movie to watch, if anything. Like, even if the writing would be bad, at least it would be worth it to watch the beautiful visuals. Okay, let's see, what else do we got here? Let's see. I don't have a taste for Christmas movies, mainly because I'm Jewish. That's perfectly fine, dude. But the movie's animation looks amazing for 2D. Hopefully, animated Hanukkah movies will soon be somewhat a thing, excluding 8 Crazy Nights. Yeah, I mean, like, the most that I can think of like, Hanukkah animated things that are worth watching, like, the only one that's really popping in my head is just, like, maybe that one Rugrats special, and maybe that's it. Yeah, we need more Hanukkah stuff. Like, honestly, if we are doing more holiday movies like Halloween and Christmas, especially with animated films, like, we need to diversify that portfolio. We need to start by making, like, maybe help out by doing some actual Hanukkah movies. Or, maybe, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of, like, other holidays, but I can't really, like, none can really pop out of my head. Or at least, like, non-popular ones. Like, we most certainly do not need any freaking Valentine's Day animated film. Maybe, like, I don't know, St. Patrick's Day, would be, I don't know, but, okay. Let's just take this one step at a time. Let's start by asking for more animated Hanukkah movies. Let's just start with that one. Okay, let's see, what else do we got here? Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna ask this question on everyone's mind. Why is the film not getting a wide release in theaters? This actually has potential to be one of the best animated films of the year. Of course, the animation is stellar, but the cast holds some promise, and the concept is pretty cool. But whether the film turns out to be absolutely spectacular or just crap, I'll give it this. It'll be way better than whatever the hell Home Alone 2 was. Or Home Alone 3. Or Home Alone 4. Or any of the Home Alone movies after Home Alone. But, honestly, as I stated before, there is going to be a very limited run in theaters the week before it officially hits, Netflix. But I'm guessing the main reason is just because I guess there are just studios that didn't really have the balls enough to go and really move forward with something like this. Like, many animation studios, they're really secluded and just want to stay safe with their own computer animated works, and a lot of them, especially when it comes to companies like, like when you think about like Pixar or Disney and the current, like both of them currently right now, or even companies like DreamWorks or Illumination or Sony or Blue Sky, like with those ones, they would just mainly focus on their IPs that they already have. Like, they're a lot more interested in trying to go and make sequels and franchise films more so than something like this. That's the thing. That's honestly kind of the price to pay when it comes to making holiday movies, is that they're not as likely to go and make they're not as likely to produce franchises more so than stuff that would be considered a bit evergreen per se. Like, that's my guess, but I don't know. All right, let's see. What else do we got here? I'm honestly excited for this. I know it's going to be in theaters for a month or a couple of weeks, but I hope it gets the attention. Perhaps it gets studios like Disney and Warner Brothers and even DreamWorks that they could do hand-drawn again, and it needs to come back. Yeah, that's gonna be the one thing that I am expecting from this, and it's already really happening. It's the fact that it's the fact that because of Klaus's existence, we're gonna see a lot of people thinking that, oh, maybe it's gonna be the comeback of 2D. Maybe it's gonna be the comeback of 2D, because as you all know, in the animation community and the cartoon community, when it comes to many people who are highly interested in animation, they are desperate as F to have hand-drawn come back. One way or another, they are desperate for it. They are ready to do anything in order to have it back. And yes, I do mean anything. So of course it's going to inspire comments of people thinking like, maybe this is it. Maybe this is going to be the thing that's going to bring back hand-drawn. Oh boy. Alright, I'll go and read one more comment before we're going to jump on to the next one. Let's see. I thought this trailer was but damn it, the animation is fantastic, and I'm thankful that a studio like Netflix was willing to finance and distribute an original hand-drawn animated film. I hope an independent theater near me is showing this, because I want to see more hand-drawn films. Maybe this can convince Disney. Yep, and again, we got another one that's like, oh, maybe it's going to convince others to do it. Maybe this is gonna be the one that'll bring it back. Oh, man, some of you people are predictable, may I say. But yeah, honestly, if you guys have the opportunity to go and check this one out, if you guys have the opportunity to see Klaus in theaters, then I highly recommend you to go and do it. I mean, it's not going to be every day that you're going to get a movie like this to appear on the big screen, so that's going to be something I highly like. If you ever see it in theaters, then please do so. Please go and take that opportunity, because I'm sure checking it out on the big screen will be more than worth it than just checking it out at home just on your television. I can imagine it being quite an experience when it's going to be on the big screen. Okay, so now that we got our animated trailers done, it is now time that we're gonna move on to our final trailer, and this one is going to be a bonus miscellaneous, because I'm gonna be honest, I did not expect this one to come out as soon as this. Like, in fact, I'm gonna say this is actually a last-minute addition to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, because this is something that I am highly curious about. How the fridge are they gonna do this? But you know what? Screw it. Let's go and check this one out. So, now strap yourselves in, folks, because now we're about to enter into The Jungle Cruise. Okay, so that is apparently Disney's film adaptation of The Jungle Cruise, based on their classic opening day attraction at Disneyland and also everywhere at the Disney parks. And I gotta say, I could definitely see the potential, because beforehand, I always thought, like, okay, especially with the fact that they're gonna bring in Dwayne Johnson into this, I was thinking that maybe this is gonna be Disney's answer to Jumanji, that they're just cashing in on the massive success of Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, and they're just gonna make their own adventurous jungle movie with Dwayne Johnson. But this is actually not the case. I actually do see its own identity here, and I can see how this is going to be something that would be a lot of fun. You could see a lot of creative action, and that's probably the best thing from this trailer, is that there are a lot of moments in this trailer alone that does promise that we're going to see a lot of creative action, especially with the characters of Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt. Especially, like, at the beginning, it does bring out a really good first impression of Emily Blunt's character trying to go and try to get this spear, which is the key to, like, this mythical tree. And then we see her going all around and try to escape this place from, like, people trying to stop her and then landing on the bus. Like, you got a lot of that kind of action. And then especially at the end, where you see a lot of great special effects, where this is something that I believe they described a little bit at the D23 Expo when they showed a little piece of it. Like, maybe this could be the thing they did show at D23, who knows? But with here, they actually showed, like, this mythical soldier that seemingly is made out of snakes. Like, you see all the snakes that are going into the armor, and it is bringing this person to life. It actually does look epic, and the effects actually do look strong, especially like many of the other elements that you see, like the crews trying to dodge different obstacles, going like like when it's like near this giant waterfall. Like, it actually does look pretty cool. So visually, it does look great, and it does promise a lot of amazing action. But then, of course, there's also the little nods to the Jungle Cruise attraction, which you got a little bit more coming from the, like, starting at the 30-second mark, where you see this, like, this is more as your full introduction to Dwayne Johnson's character as he leads the way on his cruise, where he's kind of portraying it as a little bit of a sham, that everything is more of a setup, where, like, you got these natives that are actually actors, and then, like, you got this fake hippo, like, just gotta, yeah, like, you do see a little bit, yeah, here are the natives, the natives that are actually actors, and then, like, you got this fake hippo, but probably my favorite little nod to the attraction, you know, it's honestly something that it is cheesy as hell, but holy crap, I can't believe they actually managed to have this happen in the trailer itself and in the movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for. The backside of water.
They gotta have the backside of water joke. They have to go and include it. Oh my god, I gotta admit, that is actually funny. Like, it's a stupid joke. It's stupid in the Jungle Cruise, it's stupid here, but you know what? It's a classic Jungle Cruise tradition, and honestly, it's like, it's so stupid that you cannot hate it. So honestly, so far it seems like it really is going down the right path. You could see that it has its own identity. It promises a lot of great action. The visual effects, and just visually in general, it does look absolutely stunning. And the nods to the Jungle Cruise attraction are actually pretty cute. But honestly, there is one little thing that's a bit of a downside for me, and honestly, I could see the full intention of what is, trying to do. And hold on a sec, I just gotta go and, ban a troll. Okay, there we go. There we are. Alright, hopefully that will fix things up in the, chat wall. Alright, so, anyways, going back to what I'm talking about here. Yes, okay, so the one downside I gotta say about this trailer in particular. Now, of course, it's good that it's not trying to be another Jumanji. But it is very evident as hell that this is pretty much telling us that this is trying to be another Pirates of the Caribbean. That Disney wants another Pirates of the Caribbean, but they can't really use Pirates of the Caribbean anymore because they've really overused Jack Sparrow, and they really overused the movies. Like, after the fifth one, people pretty much made it clear to say that, okay, that's enough, just stop it. Like, I thought the fifth movie was okay. It was definitely better than the third film and the pointless fourth movie. But honestly, yeah, like, if we could stop the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, that would be very nice. But with this one, it is very evident that they want to make Jumanji their next Pirates of the Caribbean, this action-packed film franchise based on a classic Disney attraction that features this A-list celebrity. But instead of Jack Sparrow, we got Dwayne Johnson. And that's another, and you know, honestly, this is another clue regarding why it feels that way. Like, not only are the tones very similar with Pirates of the Caribbean and what this trailer is showing us, but especially with the main character himself, with Dwayne Johnson's character, where in a way, he's a little bit of an anti-hero, not necessarily someone that you should fully support and fully trust. It's a little bit like Jack Sparrow in that sense, that he's a little bit of an anti-hero. Yeah, a lot of people really like him, but you shouldn't like him too much because he is still a bit of a scallywag and a pirate after all. And in this case over here, while Dwayne Johnson's character is not necessarily a pirate, they really do portray him as a cheapskate. And honestly, that's probably my criticism also in this trailer in particular, is just Dwayne Johnson's character. Maybe not necessarily with the way that he is acting, although I will say, like, even with the actors that they have, it doesn't necessarily feel like they're being their own characters. It really does feel like it's Maui with Mary Poppins. That's pretty much the dynamic that I'm feeling that we're getting here. But in the case of Dwayne Johnson's character, like, it really does feel like, at least in this trailer in particular, it's really selling a bit too much of the fact that he is a cheapskate. Like, honestly, it's almost as if the role was originally the role was originally written for Mr. Krabs. That's essentially the thing. That's like if Mr. Krabs wants to make his own Jungle Cruise. But maybe there is a little bit more to it, of course, but so far, with what they are portraying, with how they are portraying Dwayne Johnson's character, like, it's not necessarily bad, and there are good ways that you can do to make cheapskate characters likable. I've already mentioned Mr. Krabs as a good example, but in this case over here with Dwayne Johnson, it just, like, they're really playing it off so much. They're really trying to sell that fact where it kind of feels a bit one note. It just makes him feel like a one-dimensional character where that's all that he could offer to the movie. It's just the fact that he's a cheapskate and that he has a boat. And that's pretty much it. Maybe there's a bit more to it, but I hope that they don't run that thing to the ground. So overall, with this trailer, with our first impression with the Jungle Cruise, honestly, I am a bit optimistic for this one. I would say that I feel like this could be a lot of fun. I'm not expecting this to be like an amazing movie, but it does feel enjoyable. There's a lot of great marks on it. I do feel like this could be something that could be very strong, could be very enjoyable, could be very action-packed, and we can have a lot of fun, especially with the visuals. But there is still that element where it doesn't have much of its own soul, because you can really tell that it's trying to be the next Pirates of the Caribbean. And so far with the characters that they got, hopefully they will present a lot more, and that hopefully they are a lot more well written than what the trailer is presenting us. I do hope Dwayne Johnson's character is much more than just a cheapskate, because holy crap. The one thing that I am dreading, if that is the case, is that he's just going to deliver probably 2 hours worth of cheapskate jokes, and that is not going to be fun at all. So overall with this trailer, not expecting this to be the best, and maybe not the best trailer that we've got from the whole collection. So far, for me at least, I would say Klaus is probably the winner among the three, but honestly, I am pretty optimistic with what's going to be coming up with Jungle Cruise. So, with that said, now I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you guys, what do you think of this trailer of the Jungle Cruise? Is this going to be a movie that you guys are going to be hyped up about? Are you guys not interested in checking this movie out? Did you like this trailer? Did you not? Let me know what you all think. Oh, and on a side note, forgot to add as well, if you would pick your favorite trailer among the three, between Onward, between Klaus, and between Jungle Cruise, which one is your favorite? Let me know about that. Okay, so let's see. This might be a good film since the Jungle Cruise is one of my favorite rides I went on the Magic Kingdom. It might be as good as the first Pirates film or as bad as Country Bears and The Mansion. By the way, would you do an Animat watches on either film? Maybe Country Bears if that opportunity ever comes. Like, I'm a huge fan of Country Bear Jamboree, so maybe they would do that, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. Let's see now. That was amazing. The action in the trailer looks epic and a lot of fun. I like how the trailer depicts the jungle as big and mysterious. Not surprised The Rock is just being himself once again. I hope this movie is not as bad as The Mansion or The Country Bears and is as epic as Pirates of the Caribbean, but not as exploited as the latter. Also, this movie will definitely face controversy for its depiction of the Amazon natives as savages. Okay, no. I can pretty much explain right now. I've already stated this before. Like, the natives that we saw here, hold on a sec, these natives, they made it very clear that these guys, they're not natives. These are legit actors hired by Dwayne Johnson's character. Like, they're not meant to be, like, yeah, sure, they're very stereotypical in their depiction, but that's kind of the point. That they're supposed to be fake. They're not real natives, so there's not going to be controversy over there. So, hopefully that will try to go and clear things up. And if they do actually have, like, natives and stuff like that, I'm sure they're going to be more respectful in their depiction. So, I'll just lay it out there. Let's see. Making cheapskate characters can work. Like you said with Mr. Krabs, I've never rode the Jungle Cruise before, but it looks pretty epic to me, and its visuals can definitely work. And yeah, it looks like the next Pirates of the Caribbean, but with Maui and Mary Poppins 2018, you mean. As for my favorite trailer, I'll definitely pick Onward and Klaus. Oh, okay. But which one? But which one, though? Only one. You can only go with one. I know there's a lot of people that like to go like, maybe this and this and this. It's like, you know, like a lot of people want to do many, but I like to make people suffer. I want to make people pick only one. You only got one choice, man. Okay, let's see. Onward was the only one that kept my attention throughout, so probably that one. Okay, so we got an Onward pick. Now let's see. Oh boy, so we got a Mr. Krabs quote. SpongeBob, me boy, this is my latest add to the Krusty Krab. The Krusty Jungle Cruise. That sounds like something Krusty the Clown would do. I'm surprised they didn't do that kind of parody in the Simpsons ride, actually. Or maybe they did, but I don't know. There's a lot, like, I know there's a lot of like little jabs and little jokes, like in terms of Disney, like when you go in there, especially with the posters. Like, it was actually pretty funny. Okay. Anyways, going back to what I'm talking about. I hope I get to enjoy this film and see if it is as good as the ride. That is, as long as I try not to get put off by some of the really cheesy cheapskate jokes. Yeah, honestly, I'm hoping that it would be better than the ride. That's my guess, because I mean, like, it is the Jungle Cruise, though. I know that it is a legendary attraction, but still. I mean, it is still just a little boat ride where you see 1950s animatronics with a skipper that's making some really lame jokes. So hopefully, with this movie, it'll do something a bit higher than that. Like, don't get on the level of the Jungle Cruise. Try to be a little bit more, you know? And this is not a knock against Jungle Cruise. Again, like, it has its own charm. It is a Disney classic, of course. Okay, let's see now. I don't know how many times Dwayne Johnson has been into many jungle-related films, but this trailer makes me getting excited about this film. I like Dwayne Johnson, and I know he gives out many charisma performances in many of his films, with the third Jumanji film coming out, which I'm excited to see. I like the action, visuals, and fun moments here and there in the trailer, so I hope this movie doesn't let me down. Yeah, I hope it doesn't let me down too. And here, I'll go and read one more comment before we move on to the next thing. Oh, and I see, oh wow. So Okay, I see more. Some people are voting for Onward. I see one that voted for Klaus because of the 2D animation. Let's see. Actually, I would see Grunkle Stan doing this. Oh my god. Yes, what? Actually, that's another great example of a cheapskate character. But oh my god, actually recast the Jungle Cruise and just put on Grunkle Stan in there. Oh, that would be late. And in fact, I can actually imagine Grunkle Stan actually being a skipper at the Jungle Cruise, like trying to make his own Jungle Cruise. Like, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the backside of water. That'll be $10. Okay. Anyways, back to what I was saying. One more comment. Yes. Okay. I didn't hear or even pay attention to the trailer or your analysis since I was too busy singing Weird Al's Skipper Dance song for all this time. By the way, that's because the song's about a failed actor that became a Jungle Cruise skipper. My favorite trailer was Klaus. Oh my god, yeah. And that's, honestly, that's another great thing, is the, another great Jungle Cruise element is actually the Skipper dance song. If you guys have never heard of Weird Al's Skipper dance song, it's actually really funny. It's actually really good. And even as a diehard Disney fan myself and a major Disney Parks fan, I love the Jungle Cruise song. It's actually pretty funny. And I do know a few people that are a bit in that position when they want to try to be a major actor, but no, like they end up being like the tour guide of the Jungle Cruise ride. Skipper Dan is the name. Look at all them hippos wiggling their ears, just like they did for the past 50 years. Oh man, I still don't know the full lyrics, but it is such a great song. Alright, so that is it with all our trailers, but there is still a little bit more with this podcast, where now I'm gonna go and talk about a couple of news stories that we have coming up, and this one is definitely gonna be about the future. And honestly, I did think about maybe or maybe not talking about this story because there have been plenty of different animation news this week, but honestly, this actually was a last-minute addition because I realized that, you know what, today I have to go and talk about this one because this is actually a very significant day for the subject that I am talking about. Because today, at least as I am recording this, it is October 12th, 2019, which on this day, it actually marks the 25th anniversary of DreamWorks Animation. Yes, 25 years ago, Jeffrey Katzenberg opened the animation division of DreamWorks SKG. Ooh, excuse me. Let me rephrase that, or let me say that again. 25 years ago, Jeffrey Katzenberg opened the animation division of DreamWorks SKG, and from there, it became the biggest and most prominent division of the DreamWorks canon. In fact, the first thing when you think, like right now, the first thing that you think of when you think of DreamWorks is gonna be the animation side of things. The first thing you think of when someone says DreamWorks will be the makers of Shrek, the makers of How to Train Your Dragon, the makers of Kung Fu Panda. And with this story that I have over here, why not take a moment to celebrate DreamWorks Animation's 25th anniversary by looking into their future, more specifically with what's happening in 2021. Yes, DreamWorks Animation has announced that they are going to be releasing 2 new animated films in 2021. However, there's also one that's already placed during that year. So this makes 2021 for the first time since 2014 that DreamWorks Animation will be releasing a total of 3 animated features. And the reason why, well, they will be explainable in themselves, but you will see. Now, in terms of what was there before, originally there were just 2 animated features. The first one was The Boss Baby, or the sequel to The Boss Baby, which is going to be coming out in March. And then there was another one, which is Spooky Jack, which was meant to be a collaboration with Blumhouse Pictures. But unfortunately, in order to make room for the new animated films, that film unfortunately got removed from its original release date, and now we don't know what's happening. Right now, the project seems to be in limbo, or there is a chance that it could actually be canceled. It could be going in the way of Me and My Shadow and Boo and all that kind of stuff. So, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Halloween-themed projects seem to be lucky at DreamWorks Animation. But anyways, going back to what I'm talking about, what are these new projects that are coming up? Well, the first one is going to be based on an Aaron Blabey best-selling scholastic book series, which is going to be called The Bad Guys. And this is actually going to be written by Ethan Cohen, the person that brought you Tropic Thunder and Get Hard, and also Hillary Winston, who also worked on NBC's Community and My Name is Earl, in which this film, I believe it's stated that this is going to be the directorial debut of DreamWorks veteran Pierre Pierfield, who actually was the director of the animated short Bilby and was also an animator on the Kung Fu Panda franchise. And to read you a little bit from my source here on Deadline about what the bad guys are going to be, it states here, The Bad Guys follows 5 notorious villains, Mr. Wolf, Mr. Snake, Mr. Piranha, Mr. Shark, and Miss Tarantula, who spent a lifetime together pulling off big heists. The animated project is said to have a similar twist on heist genres, on the heist genre that Shrek did on fairy tales and what Kung Fu Panda did for Kung Fu genre. But what is the third film now? We know Boss Baby 2 is happening. We know now The Bad Guys is going to be coming out, which in terms of that release date, is going to be, did they confirm? Oh, yes. Apparently they confirmed that it's going to be on September 17th, 2021, that The Bad Guys is going to be coming out. But what about the third film? What's that one going to be? Well, that's actually going to be the most interesting one of the bunch, because for the first time ever, DreamWorks Animation is going to make a feature film based on one of their Netflix series, or one of their streaming service series, which in this case is going to be Spirit Riding Free. And yes, Spirit Riding Free, a very interesting series, actually. The 2017 Netflix series that's actually a reimagining of their 2002 animated feature film, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. And from there, they have stated that Elaine Bogan is going to be the director, who previously worked on a lot of DreamWorks' Netflix shows like Troll Hunters, 3 Below, and Dragon Race to the Edge. And also we'll have co-directing help from Ennio Torrezan, who was the head of story for projects like Abominable and The Boss Baby. And on top of that, it's also going to be written by none other than the creator of the series, Ari Wallington, which I don't know if I got that name right, but hopefully I did. All right, anyways, let's get into the plot. What is this going to be about? So going back to my source, it says here, the new pick will follow headstrong Lucky Prescott, who is forced to move from her big city home to a small frontier town, where she's a complete fish out of water. But her life has changed forever when she makes new friends and forms an inseparable bond with a wild Mustang named Spirit. When Spirit's herd is captured by rustlers, the girls and their horse must undertake the adventure of a lifetime to save them. And on top of that, I think a very important thing to note is that Spirit is not going to be made like most other DreamWorks films. They're not going to give it like the full-on DreamWorks treatment. It is even said here that Spirit Riding Free, or the Spirit Riding Free movie, is going to be made at a much lower budget, where they're going to have the assistance of another animation studio to help them out to go and make this movie. So it's going to be very similar to the way that they built Captain Underpants, where they collaborated with another animation studio and managed to really reduce costs, where that film only has a budget of about $38 million, which is kind of insane to think about for a big budget animated feature. Or, well, I can't really say big budget anymore if it only has a budget of $38 million. but still, for $38 million, it definitely did come out pretty strong. So yeah, that seems to be the big thing. Now in 2021, we got 3 major movies. We got The Boss Baby 2, we got The Bad Guys, and we got Spirit Riding Free. Now, I don't think I really have to comment much about The Boss Baby 2, since that is something that we already know that it's going to be happening. And if you guys watch my videos, if you guys have seen my reviews, then you probably know that I'm not really a fan of The Boss Baby. In fact, I do find it to be one of DreamWorks' worst animated films, like right down there with Shark Tale. So let's get into the discussion about some of the other movies that they have announced. Spirit Riding Free and The Bad Guys. So starting off with Spirit Riding Free, I do feel like that one is the most interesting to go and discuss about, because with Spirit Riding Free, hold on a sec. Oh, jeez. Just need to go and stop that one. All right, there we go. All right, back to what I was talking about, just cleaning up trolls. All right, so getting into this. So in the case of Spirit Riding Free, I feel like this one, considering that it is based on one of their Netflix series, I feel like what this is, it is a prototype. This is meant to be more of an experiment than anything else. Because the thing is, number one, it is low budget. And I think that's kind of the main reason why DreamWorks is allowing to have 3 animated features for 1 year in 2021. So this one here, with Spirit Riding Free, they're more free to go and experiment to see if this could work or not. And they can afford to, to have it be released and not make much money out of it. If it turns out to be a flop, then it's not going to hit them as hard as it did something like Rise of the Guardians or Mr. Peabody and Sherman. Like, they're not going to lose much money out of that one if it fails. But if it does succeed, if this Spirit Riding Free series actually does work out as a movie, then I got a feeling that this could be the thing that could launch much more movies that are based on their Netflix shows. Maybe this is going to be the thing that would launch DreamWorks to consider making something like a Tales of Arcadia movie, which would honestly be absolutely epic if they would go and do that. Maybe they could go and make a movie. I don't know. Oh man, I'm trying to think. Oh, this could be a perfect. Honestly, I feel like probably the next one after Spirit Riding Free, they could make a film based on She-Ra, the Princess is the Power, considering that one is becoming massively popular. And there are many different options. Maybe they could actually do a movie on Rocky and Bullwinkle. Who knows? It pretty much opens the door for them to go and make more movies and to really go and expand upon what they can do with their Netflix shows and their movies, where now the two can actually meet down the middle to go and make something. I know that there have been plenty of, there have been a lot of Netflix shows that are based on DreamWorks movies. Why not have the opposite actually happen? Have many of their streaming service shows actually be based, or no, that's not what I meant. Okay, I know what I want to say. Have Netflix movies actually be based on their Netflix shows. Why not actually have that happen? And I feel like that's pretty much the main purpose of Spirit Riding Free. It's meant to be an experiment. And especially when it comes to Spirit Riding Free, you guys honestly have no idea how popular this show actually is. It is actually very successful. Ever since its release in 2017, right now, they're up to their 8th season right now. Even though that the seasons themselves, they're very, the packages in them are very small. One season only has about 6 or 7 episodes, and that's pretty much it. But it is still going very strong. And whenever I would go into a shop like Walmart or something like that, the Spirit Riding Free merchandising, they are real and they are prominent. It's one of their, you'd be surprised how Spirit Riding Free, it's one of their bigger Netflix shows, that could be up there, with Tales of Arcadia and She-Ra. And it is honestly kind of crazy, but maybe this is debatable, but we're at the point where Spirit Riding Free is actually even more popular than Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron. So honestly, I do understand why they would pick something like Spirit Riding Free to be their prototype to go and start things off. Especially when this is something that it's not as overly complicated, and the concept itself, it's not as massive, or it's not as labor-inducing as something like She-Ra or as something as Troll Hunters, where they don't have to really focus much in terms of effects or working on fantasy elements or trying to create like these strange-looking, unique characters. They just have to focus on making little girls and making horses and making different characters in a realistic setting. That's all they have to do. So that's honestly the perfect testing ground to see if something like this can work. But then you also have something like The Bad Guys, and that is going to be something that I feel like among all the movies that they have announced for 2021, for me, The Bad Guys is going to be my most anticipated from DreamWorks. Because The Boss Baby 2, I've already established that I'm not excited for that at all. Spirit Riding Free, I'll be honest, I know it's popular, but I've never seen an episode myself, so yeah. I don't know what to expect from that one, but honestly, when it comes to The Bad Guys, I do feel like it does have the strongest potential, because number one, it is based on a Scholastic book series. And the last time DreamWorks worked on a Scholastic book series, it actually went pretty well with Captain Underpants. So already on that front, I am pretty optimistic, and I do trust DreamWorks to go and make that kind of adaptation. But then there is also another factor, and maybe it's the way that they word it here. Maybe it's the way that they word it on Deadline. The fact that they say that this is going to be a similar twist to the heist genre in the same way that Shrek did with fairy tales and that Kung Fu Panda did with martial arts movies. Now, maybe it's the way that they're trying to market it, but from the sound of that, it is actually pretty convincing and does bring up a good point in one of DreamWorks' strong suits that not many people talk about. The way that DreamWorks can reinvent a genre. This is something that DreamWorks is highly capable of, and as it's stated, they know how to do that by twisting the fairy tale genre with Shrek, by twisting the martial arts genre with Kung Fu Panda, and maybe they could go and do this same thing with The Bad Guys by making this satirical take on heist movies, trying to make something that could be in the veins of like the Ocean's 11 movies, but add a satirical twist to it by making it fun, by making it enjoyable. I could definitely see a lot of the strong potential, especially when they got the writers actually do look promising as well. Like, they got the people that worked on Tropic Thunder, that worked on Community, that did work on projects that actually are pretty strong in terms of comedy, and maybe that's also going to be prominent in something like this. So, honestly, out of all of this, The Bad Guys is going to be the one that I am pretty optimistic for. But in terms of the rest, it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to go. In terms of the financial situation, in terms of how they're going to do financially, that is going to be something that we'll have to wait and see. The Boss Baby 2, honestly, I don't know how that one is going to go, because as you've seen from this year, it is highly possible that sequels to very successful movies could end up becoming box office bombs. Case in point, look at Lego Movie 2 and look at Angry Birds Movie 2. And maybe the same thing could happen to The Boss Baby. That, or it could become another gigantic hit. Spirit Riding Free, that I don't know, but considering that it is on the lower end, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Maybe it's going to be in the same results as Captain Underpants, where it's not going to make much, but it's not going to matter anyway because it has a really low budget. But then you have The Bad Guys, and that is going to be a massive guessing game. That is going to be something that we'll have to wait and see, that will require some strong marketing and maybe some strong good of mouth as well in order for that to become a massive success. But that's the one that I'm going to keep my eye on the most for 2020 in terms of what DreamWorks has to offer. So that's pretty much all that DreamWorks is going to do on this entire situation. What they're going to do for 2021 It's a big load that they're gonna unleash, but I really do hope for the best of them on each and every single film. Okay, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you guys, what do you all think about DreamWorks Animation's new 2021 lineup? Are you guys excited to see what they have in store with stuff like Boss Baby 2, Spirit Riding Free, and The Bad Guys? Is there one that you like in particular more so than the other, or are you not really excited for any of them? Let me know what you all think right now. Okay, let's see. Do we have any comments? Do we have, Downton Abbey was surprisingly a hit. Good to know. Thank you so much, dude. Okay, anyways, okay, so we do have one. Let's see now. DreamWorks hold on a sec, yes. DreamWorks Animation has come a long way before they replaced Don Bluth as Disney's animation rival, and by looking at them now, it's, interesting? I can't wait to see what happens next for DreamWorks Animation in their next animation chapter, even if they are not much of a rival to Disney nowadays, unlike Illumination. Seriously, have you seen the bad blood the two have back then? It was World War II back there. Oh, dude, you have no idea. Trust me, as someone who is highly interested in animation history, I know, man. Oh, I know. That's nothing. You should see how it was when Shrek was first released. Whoo, delally was there bad blood in there. Especially the feud between Jeffrey Katzenberg and Michael Eisner. Oh man, that thing was intense. Now that is something that deserves a movie. In fact, right now I'm actually reading, well, not necessarily reading, I'm actually listening to the audiobook of Disney War, and I highly do recommend that. Oh my god. So that's one thing you need to keep an eye on. Okay, now, let's see here. Who even expected a sequel to Spirit of all films? Well, okay, it's not really a sequel. It's gonna be like a reboot. That's what it's gonna be. The Spirit Riding Free film is gonna be a whole, it's gonna be a massive reboot to Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, more so than a sequel. Like, the only thing that would actually make it a sequel is if they surprisingly decided to bring back Matt Damon to do narration for it. That's the only way that I can expect that to be a sequel. It's like, I was suddenly in the wild, but then suddenly I met this girl. I don't know how that happened, but okay. I guess she's gonna help me save my family. Alright, anyways, back to the comment. Let's see now. The Bad Guys sound good too, but the Spirit sequel just intrigues me. Maybe they'll take your advice and implement hardcore heavy metal into the soundtrack. Yes, boy! Go full on Metallica soundtrack! As for Boss Baby 2, I find the film to be decent at most, but I have no idea how it could be continued, since it wrapped up all peachy at the end. But all in all, these movies have me curious and some random dude named George. Okay, there we go. That's an interesting comment right there. Alright, next up that we got here. DreamWorks' upcoming slate looks meh. A lot of them are sequels like Trolls and Croods for 2020, Boss Baby 2 and Spirit Riding Free doesn't sound that interesting to me for 2021. But The Bad Guys has a lot of potential, although I'm disappointed that Spooky Jack has been removed from the schedule, but hopefully for 2022, by the way. For 2022, by the way, happy 25th DreamWorks. Finally there, now I see the comments of people saying happy birthday DreamWorks, or happy 25th. Oh, interesting, finally now they're coming out. Alright, so I'll go and read one more comment now. Let's see. I don't know if it's cool to see DreamWorks Animation making an animated either Netflix or theatrical film based on a Netflix series. Also sad that Spooky Jack has gone away from 2021 since that concept had made me optimistic, but I'm good on The Bad Guys. So yeah, it definitely does look like, it definitely does seem like something that a lot of people are actually pretty interested on The Bad Guys out of all things, so yeah, well, it looks like I'm not the only one then. Okay, so now that my throat is ready, now that we can have all this set up, it is now time that we shall go into the grand finale, and I've pretty much saved the biggest animation news for last, because this is another massive animation controversy that has recently exploded. However, for this series in particular, they just call this another day for the series. It ain't their first rodeo having this happen, but might as well have this going. And this is the kind of series that, when they're in controversy, my God, they do not hold back. And what I'm talking about, of course, is going to be going down to South Park here. I'm gonna have a good time now. And I just butchered the song. Holy crap, I don't know the lyrics. Alright, but yes, what I am talking about is actually going to be regarding South Park and the fact that they are banned in China because of their episode, Banned in China. Now, to give you guys a little bit of context, this is one of their recent episodes, to be specific, the second episode of their 23rd season that is actually called Banned in China. And I'm gonna read to you from my source here on Variety about what the episode entails, and then we can go and follow on to what has been happening. So it says here, in the episode titled Banned in China, Randy Marsh traveled to China to sell marijuana from his farm in the Chinese market. He is subsequently arrested and witnesses harsh treatment of Chinese prisoners, which includes Pooh and Piglet, who were banned in the country after memes comparing Chinese leader Xi Jinping to Pooh circulated online. In the same episode, a producer wants to make a movie about Stan Marsh's new band, but tells Stan they must remove certain elements to make it palatable to Chinese censors. And that's basically the main thing that is going on with the episode, is the fact that they are making a massive commentary on the Chinese government, especially the way that they are censoring it, and how Hollywood is pretty much following to the Chinese rules in order to make their feature films, considering that China right now is starting to grow much bigger as like this market to go. Well, I think let me go and rephrase that, because I lost a bit of my train of thought. But right now, China is becoming a much bigger market in terms of consuming movies, where now it's starting to be a much bigger market than in North America. So now Hollywood is following the Chinese rules to make sure that that they can make their movies much more acceptable to Chinese audiences, much more than North American audiences. And that's kind of the big thing that is going on with the South Park episode, is that they're making a big comment on that. And oh my God, it's like wow, I already see some simple-minded people in the chat wall trying to say, like, China's becoming an SJW. Yeah, that does seem to be like the simple-minded mentality of people thinking that, oh, censorship, that means SJW things. No, it's not. In fact, I would even say that China right now is becoming a lot more of what Trump wants America to be, where Trump wants to have 100% control of all the censorships, where you're not allowed to even criticize him or say anything that is not high praise. That's currently the situation that is going on in China. So don't even pin it on any form of SJW bullcrap. And I know Trump would heavily criticize on China and stuff like that, but let's be honest, he really does admire the format of dictatorship so that he could be his own dictator in America. But anyways, going back into South Park, going back into this discussion right over here, with the element of South Park, yes, because of this episode, the Chinese government was not happy with how South Park has criticized the Chinese government. So in response, China has decided to completely ban South Park, completely ban them from social media, and ban them from the internet altogether. And from there, the creators, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, decided to go and release their comment regarding the situation, where they posted on Twitter a little bit of a snarky response by saying, Like the NBA, we welcome the Chinese censors into our homes and into our hearts. We too love money more than freedom and democracy. Z doesn't look just like Winnie the Pooh at all. Tune in to our 300th episode this Wednesday at 10. Long live the great Communist Party of China. May the autumn's sorghum harvest be bountiful. We good now, China? And just a little bit of a heads up, if you guys want to know what they're talking about at the beginning saying, like the NBA, I'm just going to read you a little bit more. It's in the bottom where they decided to go and give a little bit more context into that situation, as it states. Over the weekend, last weekend, Daryl Morey, general manager of the NBA's Houston Rockets, puts out a tweet that expresses support for pro-democracy protests currently going on in Hong Kong. In response, Chinese sports, government, and business groups condemned the tweet and moved to cut ties with the Rockets. The NBA put out a statement Sunday distancing themselves from Morey's words. And that's currently the big situation that's happening right now. I wouldn't necessarily say dividing people per se, but really, I guess the best way to put it is dividing big companies from the public and how they would respond to the situation. In fact, what's ironic is that this week, ever since the release of that episode in particular, it actually does embolden the message that South Park is trying to say with that episode, because I'm sure many of you guys have heard about the controversy related to Blizzard, where there is this one pro player who is like a major MLG player of Hearthstone. I think that's the term. Is it Hearthstone or is it Heartstroke or Hearthstone? One of the two. But anyways, he's a major a major pro gamer of that. He would go into tournament, Hearthstone. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's the thing. He's a massive player of Hearthstone, where in that game, he would go into tournaments and he would win prizes. But the ironic thing is that player is from Hong Kong, and he expressed support for the Hong Kong protesters. So Blizzard actually responded by restricting him from many of his prizes and restricting him from entering into any of the tournaments because of his support for Hong Kong, which led to a massive backlash on social media against Blizzard, which, from what I've heard right now, the situation has gotten a little bit worse right now. But the whole point is that when it comes to South Park, you love them or hate them, you know that when they have something to say, they're not afraid to just really pop out and just flat out say that it's bullcrap. Like, they wouldn't really make jokes about it. They would just be upfront and say, this is a problem and this is massively bullcrap, and here is why. And with this episode in particular, they want to go improve, like, the whole point of the episode is to show how the Chinese government is unfairly having major control, not just in terms of how they're governing their people, but how they're now also controlling Hollywood as well, especially with the commentary on the Stan side of the plot, where they would talk about making a movie, but making it more palatable for Chinese markets. Because that's kind of the sad reality, is that nowadays, they are, like, as I stated before, they are making movies for Chinese audiences more so than North American audiences. In fact, they're pretty much controlling the outcome of what's happening with modern movies. That is it. Like, it's because of the Chinese why we have major film franchises like the Fast and Furious, like the Despicable Me films, and especially with superhero films. Like, yeah, sure, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is really popular in North America, but it's mainly because of the Chinese, why they are such a massive global trend, and why they are currently right now some of the biggest movies of all time, and even Endgame right now is the biggest movie of all time. And with the Chinese market, so of course, now that they do have more power, now that they are the ones that are giving out more money, and considering that now we are especially seeing more Chinese studios actually producing films, and it's already affecting a lot in animation as well, where even this year, some of the mainstream movies were actually done in China. Case in point, look at Ugly Dolls. That was actually from a Chinese studio. Or even right now, Abominable from DreamWorks. That is a collaboration with Pearl Studios that's mainly made for a Chinese audience, especially when the characters are originally set, like their home is actually in Shanghai. So that's kind of the big thing that South Park wants to go and try to make a comment. And nowadays, it seems to be growing a lot more prominent, and it's starting to be a bit more obvious. Now, of course, with the South Park episode, say what you will, like maybe there are some things where they might have gone a little bit too extreme, like Randy going as far as like literally strangling Pooh to death. But it does bring up a lot of good points about the way that the Chinese government is kind of dictating their way into controlling the world, basically, in a level that is a bit unfair, and that now that it's starting to affect us as well, because the Chinese government is starting to have more power in terms of the big companies, that now they have more of a say onto companies like the NBA, onto Blizzard, and even Disney to a certain extent, because the example of Winnie the Pooh is actually really good, and the more you think about it, the more you realize, yeah, the Chinese actually do have a pretty good stronghold on Disney, because think about Winnie the Pooh. Let me go and ask you, with the exception of Christopher Robin, the 2018 live-action movie with Ewan McGregor, with the exception of that, have you seen much recent things related to Winnie the Pooh? Like, there was a time when Winnie the Pooh was one of Disney's biggest markets out there. Like, Winnie the Pooh used to be, like, one of Disney's biggest cash cows. But nowadays, Disney is mostly silent when it comes to Winnie the Pooh. And that is actually mainly because of the meme that China decided to ultimately ban, where people were kind of making like satirical little jokes of how Xi Jinping looks like Winnie the Pooh, and he got upset over it. So now China has a full-on ban of Winnie the Pooh. You're not allowed to have any Winnie the Pooh things. Like, that thing is entirely banned altogether. And that's why we don't see Winnie the Pooh around much anymore. It's mainly because it's just it's mainly because of China. And I mean, Winnie the Pooh isn't necessarily the only one that's actually banned in terms of cartoons that you're not allowed to show in China. Like, another strange example, but this is actually true. Like, if you want to go into China and you want to show yourself that you are gangsta, that you're a rebel, you a gangsta, that you can rock the streets out there, then you gotta show your respects to Peppa Pig. Cause Peppa Pig in China is the symbol of being a gangster, of being a rebel, that you're not gonna let the government control ya. And this is not a joke. I know it's weird that out of all things, freaking Peppa Pig, but I mean, you never know. Like, you never know with memes in China and the things that can result out of that. So with that said, with South Park, honestly, this is one of those cases that I gotta completely side with them, because like, they're not like China. Like, the thing with South Park is that they are not afraid to call them out, and whenever like there's some controversy happening, they always know that they gotta go and double down. In fact, right now, just recently, Hong Kong is highly praising South Park, and like, they kind of view Trey Parker and Matt Stone currently as a messiah, because recently, it was actually reported that on a giant screen, they actually did show the episode banned in China, that they loved the way that they are criticizing the Chinese government and just full on bashing them. So that's kind of the big thing about this episode. And maybe you guys have probably heard the current situation in China. Like, you've heard all around the news about like the big war that's currently happening with Hong Kong protesters fighting for their rights, fighting for their freedom, fighting for their democracy against the Chinese government that wants to try to assimilate them into mainland China, so that like all of China is pretty much the same thing and ruled under the Communist Party. But for me, I'm just going to say right now that I do support the Hong Kong protesters right now. And hopefully I do wish the protesters the best of luck, that they can fight for their freedom. But yeah, right now, like, it is becoming a major big situation when it comes to China, and honestly, I do applaud the efforts of South Park and the South Park team for actually stepping forward and to actually go and call them out on to call the Chinese government out on this. The more attention and awareness that we would have on the scenario, the more easy that it'll be for us to understand what is happening in the world, and that hopefully that we can help, that maybe we can go and do something to help these people out, to help out not just the Hong Kong protesters, but the Chinese people, in the hopes that they don't have to fall under a dictatorship. So that's currently the big thing with all this. So again, I wish the protesters the best of luck, and good on South Park for calling out the Chinese people. Well, not the Chinese people, the Chinese government, of course. So with all that said, I know it's a bit of a complicated issue, but I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you guys, what do you all think about the South Park episode banned in China? If you guys have actually seen it, let me know your thoughts on it. And how do you feel about the current controversy that South Park is getting themselves into? I know it's not their first time, but how do you feel about this one in particular? Okay, let's see now. Let's see. Well, isn't that surprising? First Winnie the Pooh, and now South Park. Not too surprising. South Park got into controversy. It's always controversial that the movie could be controversial, and South Park can take it easy, especially with how they portray and talk about China. Seems Trey and Matt aren't too worried about it. And as much as I support China support China. And as much as I support China on this, I do appreciate Matt and Trey for trying to call out China. Because honestly, this is a situation where it is their freedom of speech. This is a situation that, what they're doing is just using satire in order to go and make a commentary on the modern environment in China. So they're in their rights of doing so. And when something is, when a country is currently messed up, when they have to ban Winnie the Pooh before that they would ban South Park. Okay. Let's see. With the news about Blizzard banning Blitz Chung after he showed his support for the Hong Kong protesters, it really shows how some companies just simply want to gain access to the Chinese market, and that they should not be considered to be ethical because of it. I am glad that Matt Stone and Trey Parker are calling them out on it. Especially, that's probably the best thing that's coming out of this episode, is that it's bringing out more awareness, where now, yeah, we got the South Park fans getting into it, but now, especially with what happened to Blizzard, now the gamers are, now they're in the know about this controversy, and, now, they can have a good first step about what's going on. That's probably the best thing about this episode in particular, is that it's actually a first step to understanding what's going on with the massive controversy with the Chinese government right now. So that's actually a great thing that's currently happening, and that how ironic that as time continues, it seems like now like companies are showing how Trey Parker and Matt Stone are actually correct on this. So thank you, Blizzard, for proving Parker and Stone to actually be right on this situation. Okay, let's see now. Let's see. Let's see. China has a social credit system to enforce strict conformity, along with torturing millions of Muslims. Thank you, Trey and Matt, for calling their horrid regime out. Of course. Let's see. Where else? Is it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think this is the one that I wanted to read. Let's see here. I'm not surprised that something like this would happen. South Park is known for entering into tons of controversy. I don't think this is as bad as when Muslims threatened Trey Parker and Matt Stone for attempting to draw Muhammad. Good on the creators for bringing awareness on the authoritarian nature of the Chinese government. The media needs to call out China, but they are just presenting as their super innovative nation. Twitch is the China of streaming services, and they limit the words I say. Well, that's just because of a literal word limit. And trust me, trust me, as a YouTuber, I would say YouTube is much more like China than Twitch. I'll just lay it out there. I mean, at least Twitch let me show you, at least Twitch can let me show you the trailers before I can go and make my full commentary on them. I'm just saying. Okay, let's see. I'll go and read one more comment. So, let's see. I think controversies help South Park help be on the map. Another example of how controversy puts something on the map is how Terry Rakolta protested Married with Children, and the show became popular because of her boycott. Well, I mean, they've done it several times right now, and as the previous comment actually said it, like, even though, of course, this is not their first time being in controversy, this is, of course, not the worst controversy that they have been. Trey Parker and Matt Stone has been through much worse. So that's why they know that they're perfectly fine. That's why they're going on Twitter and kind of like poking the bear a bit with their little tweets. So they're not afraid. So yeah, overall, I do congratulate Parker and Stone on their efforts on calling out China on this situation. Okay, so with that said, that is pretty much it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So let me just say thank you all so much for listening, and thank you all so much for watching. It has definitely been a blast of an episode and definitely a lot of fun. So hopefully we could do it again for next week. So with all that said, I just want to say thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see you later, dudes.